September 10, 2025. Utah Valley University. A sunny afternoon. 3,000 people gathered in an outdoor courtyard to hear Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old founder of Turning Point OSA, debate students about American politics. He was throwing hats into the crowd, smiling, engaging with the audience. Then at exactly 12:23 p.m., a single shot rang out. Kirk grabbed his neck and collapsed. Blood poured from the wound. People screamed and ran in every direction, trampling barricades, leaving behind phones and bags. Within minutes, Charlie Kirk was dead, shot by a sniper positioned on a rooftop, 142 yards away. The shooter jumped from the building and disappeared into a nearby neighborhood. America woke up the next day to realize that political violence had reached a new level. A prominent conservative activist, a father of two, assassinated on a college campus in broad daylight. So what really happened? How did a 22-year-old with a bolt-action rifle get onto a roof in the middle of a secured event? And what does this assassination tell us about where America is heading? Let's start with the basic facts. Charlie Kirk wasn't just some random political figure. He was one of the most influential conservative voices in America, especially among young people. Turning Point USA, the organization he founded, had chapters on thousands of college campuses. Kirk was known for his Prove Me Wrong debates, where he'd set up a table on campuses and invite liberal students to challenge him. He was provocative, unapologetic, and deeply polarizing. Millions loved him, millions hated him. And on September 10th, that hatred turned deadly. What do you think it says about America when political disagreement escalates to assassination? The event at Utah Valley University was supposed to be routine. Kirk had done hundreds of these events before. It was the first stop on his fall 2025 American Comeback Tour. The university had coordinated with campus police. Kirk's personal security team was present. 6 campus police officers were deployed, along with plainclothes officers in the crowd. From the outside it looked secure. But security experts who reviewed the event afterward were horrified. The outdoor courtyard where Kirk spoke was surrounded by tall buildings. Perfect sniper positions. And not a single one of those rooftops was monitored. No drones flew overhead. No officers were stationed on roofs. The university didn't even coordinate with local law enforcement who had drones available. What do you think happens when you put a high-profile, controversial figure in an open space surrounded by elevated positions and you don't secure those positions? Tyler James Robinson knew this. The 22-year-old arrived on campus at 8:29 a.m. that morning, 4 hours before the event started. He was driving a gray Dodge Challenger and wearing a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, and a black hat. Security footage shows him moving through campus, entering stairwells, and making his way onto a roof. Somewhere along the way, he changed into dark clothing. He positioned himself on the roof of a building approximately 142 yards from where Kirk would speak. He had a high-powered bolt-action rifle, and he waited. What do you think was going through his mind during those hours of waiting? At 12:05 p.m., Kirk arrived. The crowd was energetic, chanting his name. Kirk threw hats into the audience, engaged with students, and began taking questions. 18 minutes later, at 12:23 p.m., Robinson fired. The bullet struck Kirk in the neck. Witnesses said the sound was deafening, echoing across the courtyard. For a moment, people didn't understand what had happened. Then they saw Kirk collapse, blood spreading across the white tent that read the American Comeback. Chaos erupted. People ran. Some tried to help Kirk. His security team rushed him toward a vehicle. But it was too late. The bullet had severed an artery. Charlie Kirk was dead before he reached the hospital. What do you think it's like to witness someone you admire, or even someone you hate, get shot right in front of you? Robinson didn't stick around. After firing the shot, he jumped from the roof and fled into a nearby residential area. He left the rifle behind in a wooded area, along with ammunition. Investigators later found shoe impressions, a forearm imprint, and a palm print on the rooftop. Robinson had planned this meticulously, but he hadn't planned an effective escape. Within 33 hours after his parents recognized his image from news footage, Robinson surrendered to authorities in Washington County, Utah, about 240 miles from the shooting site. What do you think his parents felt when they realized their son had just assassinated someone? The FBI took over the investigation immediately. They recovered the rifle, a high-powered bolt-action weapon. They traced Robinson's movements on campus through security footage. They interviewed witnesses, collected evidence, and within days, had a clear picture of what happened. But the question everyone wanted answered was why? Why did Tyler James Robinson, a kid from a conservative Republican family in Utah, decide to kill Charlie Kirk? What do you think drives someone to cross the line from anger to murder? The answer is complicated and disturbing. Robinson came from a devout Latter-day Saints family. His parents were Republicans. His grandmother told reporters she didn't know a single Democrat in the family. Childhood photos show Robinson at gun ranges and weapons displays, a typical conservative upbringing in Utah, but something changed. Robinson dropped out of Utah State University and, according to Governor Spencer Cox, became radicalized by leftist ideology online. His family noticed the shift. During a family dinner, Robinson expressed hatred for Charlie Kirk and mentioned Kirk's upcoming visit to Utah Valley University. One relative told investigators that Robinson had grown increasingly concerned about gay and trans rights, issues Kirk frequently criticized. What do you think happens when someone's entire identity shifts away from their family and community, and they find new beliefs online that consume them? Prosecutors charged Robinson with aggravated murder and announced they would seek the death penalty, arguing the assassination was politically motivated. The case became a flashpoint in America's culture war. Conservatives pointed to Robinson as proof that left-wing rhetoric had gone too far, that demonizing political opponents inevitably leads to violence. The timing didn't help. Just 2 weeks before Kirk's assassination, a transgender individual had shot and killed 2 children and wounded 21 others at a church in Minneapolis. Social media exploded with conspiracy theories, some speculating that Robinson, who had a transgender partner, was motivated by Kirk's rhetoric on trans issues. LGBTQ advocacy groups condemned the speculation, calling it harmful and noting it unfairly targeted an entire community for one individual's actions. What do you think happens to rational discourse when every tragedy becomes ammunition in a culture war? But let's step back from the politics for a moment and talk about the security failure, because that's where this story gets truly alarming. Utah Valley University failed at every level. The outdoor venue was surrounded by buildings that provided perfect sniper positions. Campus police didn't secure those buildings. They didn't fly drones to monitor rooftops, even though the weather was perfect for drone surveillance and local law enforcement had drones available. They deployed only 6 officers for an event with 3,000 attendees and a highly controversial speaker. There were no bag checks, no metal detectors. Nothing to prevent someone from walking onto campus with a rifle. Security experts who reviewed the incident afterward said it was a textbook example of how not to secure a high-profile event. What do you think it says about America's preparedness for political violence when a major university can't protect a speaker at a public event? Utah Valley University Police Chief Jeffrey Long admitted after the shooting that it was a police chief's nightmare. He said they had trained for scenarios like this and thought they had things covered, but clearly they didn't. The university has since announced it's hiring 8 new campus police officers and conducting an independent security review, but that doesn't bring Charlie Kirk back. And it doesn't erase the fact that this was entirely preventable. What do you think happens to free speech on college campuses when speakers know they might be assassinated and universities prove they can't keep them safe? The fallout from Kirk's assassination has been massive. A poll conducted 9 days after his death found that Republican voters' confidence in the direction of the country plummeted. In June 2025, 70% of Republicans said the country was headed in the right direction. By late September, after Kirk's murder, only 49% felt that way. Democrats and independents also saw drops in optimism, though less dramatic. Candlelight vigils were held across the country. A memorial was set up at Utah Valley University. Kirk's body was flown back to Arizona on Air Force Two, with Vice President J.D. Vance personally retrieving it. The ceremony was attended by thousands, and President Trump gave a eulogy calling Kirk a a relentless and courageous crusader for free speech. What do you think it means when a political activist becomes a martyr? Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, vowed to continue Turning Point USA as events, saying her husband wouldn't want his death to silence conservative voices. But privately, many conservative speakers are now terrified. If Charlie Kirk, who had professional security and was speaking at a supposedly secured university event, could be assassinated, who's safe? Some speakers have cancelled campus appearances. Others now demand military-level security, including rooftop snipers and drone surveillance, which most universities can't or won't provide. What do you think happens to political debate when people are too scared to speak publicly? And here's the truly disturbing question. Was Robinson acting alone? The FBI says yes. Investigators found no evidence that Robinson was connected to any organized left-wing groups, despite claims from Trump and other Republicans. But absence of evidence isn't always evidence of absence. Robinson was radicalized online. What forums was he on? What content was he consuming? Who was encouraging this kind of violence, even indirectly? Robinson didn't wake up one day and decide to kill Charlie Kirk. It was a process. Months, maybe years of consuming content that dehumanized conservatives, that portrayed people like Kirk not as political opponents, but as existential threats who needed to be eliminated. What do you think happens when political discourse shifts from "I disagree with you" to "You are evil and must be stopped"? America has seen a surge in political violence in recent years. The attempted murder of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in 2022, and now, Charlie Kirk in 2025. This isn't normal. This isn't how democracies function. When political violence becomes routine, when assassinations become predictable, society is breaking down. What do you think happens when the next controversial figure speaks publicly? How many security measures will be necessary? And at what point does the cost of protecting free speech become so high that free speech effectively dies? Charlie Kirk's children will grow up without their father. They'll hear stories about him, see videos, read articles, but they won't have memories. They won't hear his voice except in recordings. And for what? Because a 22-year-old, radicalized by online rhetoric, decided that political disagreement justified murder. Robinson will likely face the death penalty. His life too is over. 2 families destroyed, a nation further divided. And the cycle of violence continues. What do you think happens next? Will Kirk's assassination be the last, or is this just the beginning of an era where political figures are routinely targeted? Here's what we know for certain. America is at a breaking point. The rhetoric on both sides has become so extreme that people no longer see their political opponents as fellow citizens with different views. They see them as enemies who must be defeated by any means necessary. And when that happens, when the guardrails of civil discourse collapse completely, violence is inevitable. Charlie Kirk's assassination wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a much larger disease. What do you think it will take for America to step back from this edge? If this scenario made you realize how dangerous political polarization has become, leave a comment below telling me how we stop the cycle of violence before it's too late. And if you want more explorations of the crises tearing America apart, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is America Doom, where we examine the catastrophes reshaping the United States. Drop a like if Charlie Kirk's assassination made you fear for the future of American democracy. And I'll see you in the next one. Stay vigilant because political violence is no longer rare in America. It's becoming the norm.